Hi guys, it's Kendra with KloseWithKG, and I am here today with a friend and industry partner, Kendra Richardson Caesar. She is an awesome financial advisor and lender. I will let her introduce herself, but welcome to our video.
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you happen to be. Again, my name is Kendra Richardson. I've been in lending for quite some time and just wanted to talk about a few changes that are going on, maybe point out some things to pitfalls that you can avoid, and see how we can help individuals out there.
Cool. So, what we're going to talk about today is really on the top of a lot of people's minds, especially during times like this when um, income is decreasing for some, people are being laid off and furloughed and things like that. Um, and the first question is what happens to our expenses? Biggest expense for most people is where you live, your dwelling, your rent or mortgage. And so what we're going to talk about is how you can kind of defer some of those costs, but also protect yourself to make sure that you don't end up in a bad situation later. Kendra, what I want to ask you is one, we hear a lot about forbearance and deferment. So, can you explain to us, is there a difference? What is the difference in those two terms?
You hear them used pretty much interchangeably. They do have a difference in like the technical definition, but you're
Mhm.
really getting into semantics if you're saying forbearance and somebody else is saying deferment. Deferment means deferred, it's going to be due later. However, forbearance typically in the technical definition of it means that there's probably some like lump sum concept to it. But that's not how people are using those terms. So you have to be sure that when you're communicating with someone that you are on the same page as to what they mean when they say forbearance or deferment so that there's no confusion.
Right. And so for you as a lender, how does that work if someone needs to have their mortgage payments forgive or not forgiven, pushed out or deferred to a later date?
Well, the very first step is going to be reaching out to your lender or your servicer to figure out what the options are that are available. And unfortunately, what a lot of homeowners are finding out is that it's not so much of a forgiveness piece there. It is a forbearance that
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be able to skip a certain number of months of payments, but when that following month is due and your forbearance is over, they want all of it.
Mm,
So if you skipped, let's say, April and May, come June, they want payments for April, May, June.
wow.
So when you are negotiating or contacting your lender, your servicer to figure out what your options are, you need to make sure that there, because you might have in your mind, oh, they said I don't have to pay it, but that doesn't mean like you, just like the rental, it's a mirror here. It's
Hmm.
not gone. It's not
Right.
forgiven. Something has to happen with the balances that are due. So just be very careful because if you're having trouble making the one payment, imagine trying to make three of them
Right.
down the road. That
Right.
that that adds up very very quickly.
Ex-
So the other thing that I also want to stress, this is specifically for homeowners that are paying your monthly payment. If your monthly payment has an impound account, meaning that when you send in your payment each month, a portion of it is allocated to principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. When you're in this conversation, you need to ask the question, what happens with my escrow shortage? How is that going to be addressed? Because now not only do you have a potential shortage with the lender, now
Right.
you have a shortage on your property taxes. Now you have a shortage on your prices where you could potentially lose your home. So you
Yeah.
need to make sure how that is going to be addressed. And another thing that I'm always stressing to homeowners is when you're in these conversations, you've reached out to your lender or your servicer to figure out what your options are. Make sure you get that from them in writing. And when you get it in writing, make sure you read it
Yeah.
to verify that it does correspond with the conversation that you've had. Remember, they're busy. They're getting
Right.
hundreds of calls a day. And it's very easy to click and send out the wrong agreement, and you've signed it because we've already discussed it. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the paperwork that they've promised me, and I signed. You need
Mm-hmm.
to read it and make sure that that is what you had discussed, and that just keeps everybody honest, keep everybody on the same page.
That's huge.
Mhm.
For sure, two things kind of stood out to me. One was making sure that you read everything. The last thing that you want is that you think, for example, April and May is going to be broken up or added to the end of the mortgage, and then you sign the papers and June comes and you have, like you said, that balloon payment of
Yes.
3 months. That is like crazy.
And
Um,
that can be devastating under these
yeah,
circumstances, especially when you've gone without income and may have drained,
yep,
the savings that you had just to make it through that time period.
yep.
Um, yeah, it's just a smack on the head when you're already hurting.
Yeah. And then the other thing with the escrow account.
Hmm.
So, like Kendra said, when you pay your mortgage, it's PITI, it's principal and interest. That has to do with the lender, but taxes and insurance, they just hold that money. So if you're not paying anything, you have to make sure that how that impacts taxes and insurance because for one, what was the tax date? April 10th? They
Hmm.
didn't move that date,
No.
and we don't know if they're gonna not move the next one either. So if you're not paying into that escrow account, that puts you in a, a bad situation once the next tax date comes up, and you don't have enough. And then again with insurance, same
Hmm.
thing. If you're not paying that insurance, and so let's say what happens if that insurance isn't paid and it lapses? What does a lender do then?
Well, I did want to say that's a very good point that you just made because they did move back the deadline for income taxes, but they did not do that for property taxes.
Right.
So that is a very good point that you made there. So what happens when you have a shortage on specifically on your insurance? If we're assuming under this scenario that you have a loan because we're negotiating with the lender to figure out what your options are.
Hmm.
Um, what happens is that if the insurance lapses, meaning the provider says we're not going to continue to insure your home due to non-payment,
Hmm.
you weren't able to pay, the escrow account is short, so the insurance lapses. The current lender will put what's called forced place homeowners insurance, and it is very, very expensive.
Mm.
Uh, you could expect to pay a good 3 times as much as you were paying before. So if we were struggling to pay the initial low premium that we selected, you
Yeah.
can imagine what a burden it's going to be to try to pay something that is truly more expensive.
Yeah.
So that's going to be added to your impound account. So
Mhm.
instead of paying maybe $100 a month towards your insurance, that fee could easily go to $300 a month
Wow.
just for the insurance. So whatever you were paying before in terms of your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, you're going to need to add that additional fee in there.
Right. Yeah. These can be potentially very expensive mistakes if missed. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely
Yeah.
on the renter side and the mortgage side, if you don't take anything else from this video, read everything, make sure the agreements that you have in place or that you're putting together with your landlord or your lender, you understand them and that they are sustainable so that we don't see a crazy amount of evictions or a crazy amount of foreclosures down the road, whether it's from on the mortgage side from the lender or because of taxes as well. Anything else we want to share?
I think that's the bulk of it. Those are the kind of red flags that people need to watch out for.
Awesome. So read everything, document everything. Let us know if you have any questions. You can reach me. I'll put our contact information down in the caption of the description, but you can reach me on everything at KloseWithKG. That's KLOSE with WITHKG. That's my email at Gmail, Instagram, YouTube, all that stuff. And Kendra, where can I find you on social as well?
Okay, so starting with email, lovetolend@gmail.com, and that's spelled out LOVETOLEND @gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Kendra Lens, LENDS, and then also on my Facebook page just under my name, Kendra Richardson.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. Share this with anyone who it may help in these difficult times. And if you have any questions, let us know in the comments as well. And we'll see you next time.